Hello and welcome to Politics in Middle America. Middle America Politics? I got to remember what we're called anymore. Let's try that again. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Middle America Politics. I'm Jerry Cradiville, also known as Street Sweeper, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Fisher, from the famous Cowboys.
Greetings, Jerry. It's good to see you, Jerry. I want to be more excited this time, so it's good to be here.
There you go. So we just got done watching last night the State of the Union, the February 2023 State of the Union with President Biden. I was hearkened back to a newer member, Adrian Smith, sitting in the audience where he was sitting next to I forget the guy's name now, who yelled as they were listening to President Barack Obama, and he yelled, "You lie!"
Oh,
and Adrian was sitting right next.
Joe
Wilson, I think, of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he yelled, "You lie!" and Adrian was sitting next to him and had just wanted to hide under a rock. And it was a different time because last night it was just every other backbencher member was yelling out at the president. Right. That's what everybody. That was my thought immediately, and a lot of other people mentioned that as well.
On the other hand, I thought McCarthy. It was a little more civil up there beyond the podium. McCarthy was a little more. I don't know what's the word. I guess civil is the word, and they shook hands, and so that part of it was different.
Yeah, and then while there were the points where, it was pretty clear after it that President Biden was reeling him in. He was saying, there's some people that have said we should get rid of Social Security and Medicare or Medicaid, Medicare, and
sunset it,
sunset it, which is true. It has come out, but then a bunch of members said, "No, we don't want that."
Well, it's true that a few members,
one or two, right?
The same members that didn't vote for Kevin McCarthy, but it was very clear that McCarthy, because the NRCC immediately had a tweet that showed McCarthy that was on the record saying, "We are not sunset. We're not doing this." So before
the State of the Union, he went out and said that he knew it was coming. And so when the president said that, he just kind of quietly shook his head. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene and her bunch were going, no, we don't know. It's never going to happen. And so Biden was ready for it and said, "No, well, look, I guess
here we go."
That's
clever.
Going to change your mind.
I thought that was clever.
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess I wasn't as offended by the freaks screaming, and they are freaks, members of Congress that were doing the screaming at the initial anyway at the president, and then some of the others started saying, "Hey, no," and I did get more of a House of Commons feel to it. I didn't think it was necessarily rude or what have you. I still don't think, but then when
we've evolved, though. We've evolved. I mean, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have seen that. And we've kind of.
No, you wouldn't have. But he was sort of goading them on, and they were giving it back. And I thought it was, until you saw later that they were screaming bullshit and stuff like that. That's uncalled for. But anyways, I guess I wasn't as terribly shocked by it, but nonetheless, those types of members aren't helping themselves. They're not helping the Republican Party. I don't think they should be anywhere near the leadership. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
There are members of the Republican Party who I know locally in Omaha, Nebraska that feel that way. And they're probably the same people that are saying Don Bacon isn't conservative enough. I mean, which just goes back to show what a tremendous tightrope act Don Bacon's got to walk.
Absolutely, he does. That's the way his district is. He's representing his district, and newsflash, super hardcore right wing Republicans. If you want somebody like that, if you by chance knock over Don Bacon in the primary, your candidate won't win. you will see a
That's
Democrat representing the 2nd District of Nebraska. And that's the
By the way,
reality. And that's true.
I would consider myself a hardcore right Republican, or whatever
You're a
you just
conservative
described.
Republican, but you're not right,
I the last podcast I used a word that I used the word balanced for Bacon. And a lot of these folks that probably I'm very close to them ideologically, they don't like words like balance, and they don't like words like common sense, or they don't like words like
they don't want to negotiate. They want
pragmatic, or compromise, or
they want no
their
compromise.
Their way or the highway, and that's not the way Congress is set up. It doesn't work that way.
No, it's not. And like I said, and you will lose. You will get a Peter Hoagland back. You'll get another Democrat, back representing the 2nd District. If you think all you can have is some sort of hardcore right winger who doesn't bend at all.
Burn it down. Yeah. We're not straying for every 100% of what we believe. Well,
yeah. And by the way, Don Bacon is very conservative, sticks to his principles, is smart. If he needs to negotiate wisely.
Very comfortable with where that guy's at ideologically. Very comfortable.
Yep.
So I wrote down 4 words. Look, folks, Joey and Honey. I guess he said the word folks 17 times, or look. Anyway, I just thought it was funny.
My feeling
the
too
Joey,
is that,
honey, everything's gonna be all right, honey, which he's a repeated theme from the campaign. It's just really interesting. They clearly they focus group or they polled, because the things that he were talking about are big home run hitters for them. Let's scare them into, meta scare. Let's scare them into, force them into position of we're gonna take on the pharma companies and we're gonna lower drug prices. Yeah, who the hell doesn't want lower costs for medical? Yes, it's a great issue, and they are used. I thought they did a very good job of using that to their advantage, because he did that little thing at the podium again, like, so are you with me on this? Or, so I thought that was interesting. But then they used an issue that clearly polls very well, that you and I would agree with. Absolutely. 7 days a week and twice on Sunday, we'd agree on this issue. And that is the Junk Fee Act, where he's talking about, and he talked quite a bit about it. Talk about the
more than he talked about
airlines.
China. More than he talked about
immigration
or immigration,
or inflation.
He wants to get rid of. Listen, I've written a million contracts.
That poll. Well, that's fun. That's fun to talk about. Sure, nobody wants that, but he didn't. He avoided the real issues.
If you get rid of early termination fees, you're going to have to pay more up front. That's how it works. You get the early termination fees because you want somebody to stay contracted in for 1 year at least, or whatever the number is. And if you leave before that time, then you have to pay for the original setup fee. There's setup fees involved. It's a Dumbo issue that the President of the United States has no business talking about. I'm going to get rid of that. Are you kidding me? It's like, I'm going to
like I said, it pulled.
Oh my gosh! Wouldn't it be awesome?
He has
if
to talk
everybody
about
got
it, though, Jared. He has to talk about it.
Here's an idea: we're not going to start work until 10 o'clock, and then we're getting off at 3 o'clock, and we're going to double your vacation time. Who wouldn't like that? It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you what he's doing. There's 40% of the country thinks we've gone backwards, and so he's trying to scrap together a couple of
right? I'll tell you
a couple of little goodies for us. That's what's happening.
I hate to say it, but he's a very old dude, and he acts like it. He mumbles his words like it.
Tell me about this Jinping thing. Like, tell me one leader who hasn't changed. Now, what does that mean? We don't know, do we?
Nothing,
Has it been settled?
Nothing.
What does it mean?
He's like, who would want to be him? No one. I was like, who's he yelling at?
What's the meaning of 7?
Yeah. Old man yells at clouds. And that's what it was. And I hate to say it. I've been around, we've all been around senior citizens that suddenly get
people, you're my
at
age. You're
what.
my age. Our parents are that age or older, and you're dealing with some of those issues. You sure as hell don't want them. Like, they can't figure out the medication. And now clearly he's got people helping with that. But do you really want this guy running the country? And it's a tough question, and it will be an issue. And clearly the Republican response was all geared around age. So Republicans, newsflash, Republicans have figured out that, hey, that's going to be a nice contrast. So what do? They bring in, I guess we can talk that a little bit, but they bring in Sarah Huckabee, which I thought was, I have a couple things to talk about that as well. So, just interesting. And one of the things that I thought he screwed up big time was on the oil thing. Well, we're going to need oil at least, for another decade. It's like
10 years. And everybody started laughing.
It was like, what?
I mean, it was technically right. He said at least 10 years. It's like, at least.
We will.
Yeah.
At
okay,
least.
how about, let's
they laugh. I don't 50? Think I'm not, maybe the Dems laughed at Trump once or twice, but it was genuine, like a comedy show.
Yeah, it was genuine. Then everybody jumped in on
that's
it.
Funny.
Yeah.
So that was I thought that was a pretty significant part of the speech.
Yeah. What'd you think of Sanders? Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Well, my first thought was, being the hack that I am, was never, ever, ever, and I tweeted this: don't wear white on television. We're shooting TV ads. You would never have somebody wear all white.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Maybe she doesn't care. I mean, she looked fine, but that was my first thought. It's like, why is she wearing all white? Is it because she's innocent? Because she's young? It doesn't look well on television. So that's just the political hack in me. That was my first thought. My second thought was, I'll be honest, I don't think she really said anything that we were for. She talked about, as far as policy, maybe I'm wrong, she talked about, it was more of a convention type speech as far as what Republicans are genuinely for, in the sense of platform type issues, but it wasn't specific policies. And I just think we've lost that since '94, the contract with America, where we were for specific. And I'm not a policy guy, by the way. I never have been. I'm a political guy. Mm-hmm. But we've got, as a Republican Party, have got to have specific solutions. And I didn't hear any of those. And I think that's a big mistake.
No, I agree. I still don't think anybody has figured out how to do that response speech. I don't know who watches it, other than hardcores.
And that's just it. You're appeasing sort of the hardcores. You're not. It's not to the middle, 3% that are always undecided. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. Yeah, it's not for those people.
It's interesting.
It's
for the junkies, really. I heard one interesting thought on it was that they need to change it up. They need to do something different if they want people to watch it. They got to do something different. They got to do the 3-point contest, or to throw in the fastest man competition, or something different to pull people in. And because right now nobody is, and so one of the suggestions was, hey, just get people to come in and say, here's what he said, here's the truth. Here's what he said, here's the truth. This was wrong, and that they're 100% on. And maybe that's it. Maybe you're just saying, here's what the President of the United States just said. We're here to tell you what the actual truth on it is, and we've got it backed up. We got our researchers. We're not trying to spin it. We're just telling you the truth here. And that could be something that people would tune into.
Yeah. And for the record, there's a couple of those that I'd love to mention. One is we've brought inflation down. It's heading down. Yes, but it's also, was it a 40-year high?
Right.
Of course, he's not going to say that, but I mean, that's just one of those things. It's coming down. He also talked about gas prices coming down. Well, yeah, but they're all still, $1 or $1.50, I think, higher than when he took office. So, yeah, facts are stubborn little things. But to me, that's what the response I would have liked to see more of that. Clearly, I think you agree with me on that. Like,
something that other than here's our B-list politician who's going to come in and maybe do something interesting. We'll see what their gaffe is. They need to. I just think they need to do something different if they really want people to watch it. Depending on what anybody's goals are. Yeah. So.
The other thing that I want to talk about real briefly, jumping back. I'm sorry, I looked at a note, and I guess I tweeted about this too, so I want to expand on it a little bit. He said, can you imagine being in a black family, having that conversation with your kids when you get pulled over by law enforcement, put your hands on the wheel and don't look in the glove box? Oh my God, I thought everybody knew that. I mean, why is that a racial thing? It's a smart thing to do.
I got 2 drivers in my family. That's what I tell them to do. That's what I do.
I was actually as some people know, I was actually a police officer for 13 years, and we had a scenario, a training of traffic stops, and when to use your weapon or when not, or what is deadly force, or when to pull your weapon and when not. Just a training exercise. And I went through it, and yeah, sure enough, the guy, there was a passenger who was acting extremely squirrely, and typically that's what happens because you've got to weigh that as a police officer. Are they just nervous because we pulled them over, or are they acting weird? And sometimes with these tinted windows, you can't discern between the two things. And the guy suddenly reached for the glove box. And I pulled my weapon in training, and I did not get. It was an appropriate thing to do, and so, and that's in Middle America, white. 98% of the people are white in this town. Around 98, but probably 70 or 80, and so it's a common practice. So I just thought it was odd. So, listeners, please, listeners of all colors, please, when stopped by law enforcement, keep your hands on the wheel until instructed to do something else. It's that simple. It's not a race thing. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I thought it was a terrible example. Now, but I'm smart enough to know, if you're a person of color, you got to be more careful. The odds of something happening, I would say, are probably higher. I don't doubt any of that. I think
I go back to the Chris Rock video if you've seen it. I mean, which is funny, but it's true. Don't fight this out in the street. You're going to get your ass kicked. And what happened in Memphis was wrong. I don't want anybody to think that I think those officers' actions were justified. They were not. However, if you watch that tape, that guy, I guess here we go, but he was not complying. I don't know what I did. I didn't do anything wrong. Well, we'll talk about that as soon as we get you securely handcuffed. And so when we go into this police reform talk, I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know if that's if someone doesn't want to comply, we'll just say, oh, it's okay. You don't have to comply. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to agree.
But I would say, I would simply say, I agree with you 100%. I remember the last traffic stop I was in, I just kept my hands on the steering wheel, and the cop actually thanked me for what I was doing, because he was obviously, he knew that I was doing that purposefully, and that's what you should do. So, I chalk that up to the president once again trying to say some idea and saying and really saying it wrong. But anyways.
Yeah, I agree. Quick little story. I was once actually in uniform going home, and it was 4:00 in the morning. I wanted to get home and speeding a little bit. Anyway, I got stopped, and I as a police officer with a badge, I had my hands on the wheel.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, okay.
Do we want to shift to our second topic, or save it for another day?
Sure. No, it's just been good discussion. Let's take 3 minutes and discuss this.
So just to note, You go ahead.
You'd sent over an editorial from, was it last Sunday? So it was 2 days ago. Paper that
in the Omaha World Herald.
There was an Omaha World Herald. There was a op-ed piece from all former mayors, Democrat and Republican, supporting the streetcar. And some folks actually, feedback was, let's talk about the streetcars. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just thought it was, it was interesting. So it was Hal Dobb, P.J. Morgan, Gene Stothert, Jim Suttle, and Mike Fahey. Am I missing anybody there?
I don't think so. PJ, yep.
PJ, Hal, Gene, who we've all worked for. I worked for PJ, and I've worked for Hal as mayor.
We worked out 3 of those.
And we both worked for Gene. We didn't work for Suttle or Fahey, but they're all back in the streetcar. I just, I know that's something I've run into Hal in the past couple months, and he noted, he's a strong supporter of the streetcar. One of the things that I feel like it has been stated, but maybe not crystal clearly, is that one of the things I remember years back Hal had said is that the biggest part of the streetcar is the economic development that occurs near each stop, and that that is the most important part of building a streetcar, is all the development that occurs near the streetcar line itself. And there's some talk about that. It's like they talk about the support that it's going to get, but I haven't heard anybody really spell it out like that. And I know that's one of the ways Hal used to mention it. And I think everybody's kind of on board except for not everybody, but the biggest name not on board lately is Warren Buffett. Saying that the streetcar doesn't go to the right places and you're better off having a bus or something. I don't know, but it's
clearly
an interesting lineup, right?
There's clearly members of our party that are opposed to it too. The very, very fiscal conservatives, Nebraska Taxpayers for Freedom, of which I'm a member, is adamantly opposed to it. There are folks, within the Republican electorate, that are certainly opposed to it. And I think one of the reasons that they're opposed to it is they don't agree with the financing, or it's based on a bunch of assumptions. It's based on math, and it's hard to explain how it's going to be financed. And I'm not sure
But is that Buffett's beef? I didn't feel like that was.
No. His beef is it just doesn't make sense. Well, I think his beef is it doesn't make sense mathematically, or he doesn't see it mathematically.
Or I guess it seemed to me like his main. Yeah, and that it doesn't necessarily go to the right places, and the way it's set up, you can't expand it where you would want to expand it. I don't know.
I don't buy that argument. I've seen the layout of it. You can expand that thing.
You'd think so?
Buy that argument.
It will be interesting to see. I remember when
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've seen Jay Noddle's presentation of it, and it's very impressive. It just stems from the fact that to maintain young workers, or get companies to attract younger workers, and you and I are in our 50s now, so we have to look at this like your kids.
Sure.
How would they look at coming to Omaha and working? And so that's kind of the main thrust of this, and the inner core, the core development of the thing, and the economic development. And they're making many assumptions that don't know until it happens. And I think as a fiscal conservative, that's where folks have a hard time grasping onto it. They also don't believe ultimately their taxes won't be touched. In this proposal, they will not be touched. However, through TIF and so forth, there are implications of taxes. And so, that's where we're at. I think the council is for it, and I think it's a done deal. Clearly, they're moving forward. Now, here's one thing that I will say that'll probably get me in trouble with my friends at Nebraska Taxpayers for Freedom or whoever, and that is, remember the restaurant tax. It's we're paying 2.5% on that, and Omahans normally support new activity, and I will only point to the restaurant tax in the sense that they said that no one's going to pay this. They said, not only are people not paying it, the restaurant tax over the years has gone up. The revenue directed from the restaurant tax has gone up every year because Omahans do go out to eat. And they do go out for entertainment, and the revenue has actually increased every year, which is probably an argument for another day that we need to cut the thing. But my point is that Omahans do generally get behind the community and support these things. And again, I'm not saying that I don't think that's going to talk anybody out of their position for those who oppose it. But that's what I would say. And time will tell. Time will tell.
It'll be interesting. I've spent, I don't go out as much as I did back in my younger days. But it's interesting to see all the different areas that have grown up on their own. The Blackstone District, Benson.
And you're going to connect the Blackstone District with Midtown, with downtown,
doing some different things like that. And it's interesting to look at Kansas City. Kansas City has a streetcar, and as near as I can tell, it's been very successful. It's free, and
as will Omaha's.
It's easy. It's easy, and it kind of goes along the routes where you would want, where you kind of want it downtown.
It doesn't go to the plaza.
Look at that. But it's near as I can tell they are, and I think people like it. I haven't really heard any criticisms of it, and so I think that is a streetcar that Omahans could look at to see what it might be like. And so thus far it's been successful, been safe, and so it's an interesting example.
If there are big events, if there's big events downtown, Berkshire Hathaway weekend, for instance, College World Series, you will see a lot more ridership. And I only say that because I'm actually in Phoenix at the moment, and I was in downtown Phoenix over the weekend. Streetcar packed.
Oh, they have one? I didn't know that.
This Super Bowl. They've got one that runs east of the airport, west of downtown, and it was packed. So anyway, I'm not sure you and I came up with our own personal position on that, but that's the way.
I'm not sure I have one because I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of it.
I don't understand the math enough to come to this absolute say, we need to do this, or no, we absolutely need not to do this. And so maybe that's the disconnect at those. Well. I think more than anything, Jay Nall and the crew have got to do a better job publicly of explaining the math of it.
Yeah, but
and what's behind the assumptions
from a political standpoint. I think that release was kind of I'm not sure what the best analogy is, but I thought it was a home run. To have the mayors that have knocked heads through the years. Even the Republicans and the Democrats and everything else. They really to have all of them come together for a statement like that, I thought was pretty impressive, and whoever organized it did a good job. And really, if you're gonna go up against Warren, that was a pretty strong statement, and of a group to go up against what he said. So. I guess we'll see, how they keep going forward.
Yep, that's it. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Please take note that we not only are we on YouTube, but we're also on all podcast platforms. We're definitely up on Spotify and TuneIn. It takes a little bit longer for Apple Podcasts. I haven't checked to see if we're on there yet, but Soon we'll be on Apple Podcasts as well. So feel
All
free
the cool
to
kids are on
download.
Spotify.
They're on Spotify, which is up and running right now. So Middle
Yep.
America Politics on Spotify. So if you can't watch the video, I don't know why they'd watch us. There are a couple Muppet heads, but we have much better radio faces, in my opinion. So
There you go.
listen to the podcast as well. We encourage you to do that. And if anyone has any questions or comments, we're on Twitter at Meridian Sam, at Leavenworth ST, and we have a handle for
Mid-America Pals.
Mid-America Pauls, or you can send us an email at middleamericapolitics@gmail.com. Jerry, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.